everyone, this is D7 from D13 Airsoft, and today we're going to do my load bearing review. So this is my primary use piece of tactical kit. I use this over a more conventional plate carrier, and at the end of the video we'll talk more about the philosophy of use and why I choose this. How it's going to work is I'm going to talk about each component to what makes this loadout possible, the price tag for it, and then we're going to go back and talk about, well, why do I have it set up this way? Because you don't see load-bearing kits this big and that often anymore. Guys tend to go toward either chest rigs or plate carriers, maybe a small pistol belt in conjunction with it, and essentially a slimmer loadout. I mean, this is a pretty decent amount of equipment on here, but we'll get to that. So starting off, we're actually going to flip this around. I'm going to talk about the belt itself. So the belt itself is a MTP, so British military, their version of multicam belt system by Osprey. So the actual kit I got off kitmonster.com, and it's called the Osprey Airborne Webbing. I got the Bravo version, so it's more like the rifleman style one. Comes with a bunch of pouches. I'll have an overlay of the pictures for you to look at. And along with that, I also got the Cobra buckle. So that is the metal buckle. You can get a plastic one, you can get a rolling pin, or you can get this Cobra buckle style right here. Unbuckle it. And then I did not choose to get the bayonet lug because I don't need one, but you can get that too as part of that kit. It allows you to customize a good bit, and there's different options. So if you have LMG, sniper style, anything you kind of want to focus on, there's a belt kit on kitmonster.com made by Osprey that you can get. And from what I can tell, a lot of British military personnel are not just issued this, but use it quite often, even with plate carriers. But that entire kit setup with all the pouches was around $200, and that includes shipping and handling. You gotta remember, I'm in the United States. Kit Monster's based out of the United Kingdom, so take that into account. But again, it's not just a belt. It came with a shoulder strap system, which is different from this. I'll talk about that, and a bunch of pouches. One other detail about it that's important is I got the large belt system. So it comes with small, medium, and large. The small belt system can take around 16 cells. So what that means is for each molly strap here, you have to count them, and that allows you to have so much real estate on that belt. Small is 16, medium is 18, large is 20. So I was trying to maximize that and got a whole bunch of cells on here for 20, allows me to get a bunch of stuff on. The trade-off is when I buckle this, it almost goes all the way around my stomach. It does stop to a point where I am able to go prone and not become a problem, but it is quite large. So take that into account if you're a smaller person and what. Now, a couple things that I have done immediately different to this is if you look on, you'll see online, you will see that the strap Kit Monster comes with is a very different yoke. The British call it yoke, we call it suspenders, shoulder straps, whatever. It has a 6 point, so you have 2 here, 2 in the back, and then 2 right here. Personally, it reminds me a lot of the Russian Smurf system, and in both cases, I kind of scratched my head on what's the point of 6 points of retention. 4 is good enough, even with something this heavy, because you have to remember, you have it wrapped around you, plus the buckle is going around your stomach, so I mean, you have plenty of retention. So I cut those off, and I replaced the yoke with this. I think you can also find it Kit Monster's website, and I just spray painted it. It was originally tan. The idea was it's flatter, it's wider, it's simpler, because I don't have those 6 points. And then also at the time, I was working on, hey, do I put the straps over body armor? Do I put it underneath body armor? And this just gave me a lot more options. It's flatter either way. So I did that change. Okay, next I want to move on to the push-to-talk, which is on the shoulder strap. So this is a Baofeng to NATO-style push-to-talk. I have attached a Baofeng radio. You can see I wrapped the wire through some pouches and brought it up and just duct taped to keep it there. I have it right here. I'll have it taped up when I'm not using it, make sure debris and snow and dirt don't get inside and ruin the push-to-talk. But it's very standard. I got that around, I want to say $100 to $125. Not the cheapest thing, but it's good. I think I got it from Kenwood? Could be wrong there, but it works quite well. All right, moving on to these front 2 pouches. So these are kind of harkening back to the old school U.S. military issued M81/BDU. Sometimes the Marines have them Coyote Brown M4 magazine pouches. I kind of like multicam more, so I said, hey, is there anyone that makes it? Rothko, I think they made it in either Taiwan or maybe even China itself, but They made these pouches there. They don't make them anymore, so good luck finding them. But what I have them here for is for pyrotechnics. So on one side I got a couple of EG67s for airsoft use, and then some NOLA gauge smoke grenades. Idea behind this and why I don't have dedicated, say, grenade or smoke grenade pouches is because I don't know what I may get. Enola Gay is oftentimes supporters of a lot of airsoft events, and vendors get them in all different shapes and sizes, from very small ones to very large ones. And same thing with grenades. Maybe you're rocking a Thunder Beat, EG67s, maybe some of the disposable tagging rounds, whatever. So for me, I said, hey, you know, it's primarily for airsoft purposes. Let me just get some pouches that are pretty universal, that allow me to fit a lot. But also, if I have to, I can stick some magazines in there, which would be pretty overkill with this, but it gives me that variability, or variety. So I do like that. But again, good luck finding these exact pouches. You'll probably have to find something else to the same equivalent. Now, another detail that's important is at the bottom of each of these pouches, I do have Ziploc bags of rubber bands. Idea is, you saw I had some duct tape on some of those pyros. I can also have the rubber bands with it, just in case. It helps kind of secure the pins and whatnot on them if I need to. Okay, moving on, we have the pouches on each side. Going so far, it's duplicate on each side. We're going to start on the left here. I'm going to look at these. So this is the JJ's MTP double rifle magazine pouches. I think that's how they call it. JJ's is another UK tactical gear site, and they personally make these. I think these are 1000 DNR, very sturdy, very good quality mags. They have a very large lip on them. I have added paracord down here. We'll get to later on why I do that. Open it up, and it allows you to take 3 M4 style magazines or 2 7.62 NATO/battle rifle magazines. So it's very versatile. If you want 5.56 or intermediate cartridges, or you want battle rifle or larger magazines, it can fit both, with the caveat is the larger caliber you go, less magazines you can take. What's also unique about it is there's MOLLE on each side of the pouch. I'll go ahead and say the reason I did that is very akin to the Smurf system of pouches, where you have the grenades sewn on the sides. This allows more modularity, where I can put whatever I want, but still maximize my real estate by having it on the sides without taking up MOLLE space on the actual belt. It's a little cramped with it kind of wrapped up like this, but when I have it on and contorting around my body, it's actually quite easy to get to a lot of this. Before we go further, what I have on the inside, jammed between the belt and the JJ's magazine pouches, is a Benchmade knife. I can't remember what model it is, but you can probably tell for the knife guys what it is. Idea behind this was I can use it for small stuff, and then, you know, if I had to do something else with it, yeah, I probably could, if you know what I mean. Now, with that said, another thing I like about it is the hole here. Especially if you have thick gloves, especially when I was making this loadout up in Alaska, it's very easy to get to even with gloves on. And with that finger groove, if my hand were to slip, it's very difficult to cut myself on my own blade. So I did like that. And then I have it right here. If I ever go to an airsoft game and say blades aren't allowed, I can just take it out. It's super easy to take out, and that works. You can get these for around $100 to $125, and then JJ's pouches around $50 each, and I got 2 of them. Moving on, I have 2 Condor pistol magazine pouches. Again, I got paracord on them. Open them up, got some SIG M17 mags in there. You can adjust these, so if you have a too large mag or a very small one, you can adjust it, which is great. One of the few products on here that I use explicitly made in China, and part of that is because I got it pretty early on when I was messing with tactical gear, and they still work, and they haven't failed on me yet. Adjustable, the Velcro is good retention. I wanted something that covered up the magazines a good bit, instead of, say, like an S-Tac where it's like, you know, hard shell and you have the first half exposed, and so on. So I like those. You can get those for about $5, $10 a piece, especially if you find them in a surplus store or used or something like that. Next up is a Eagle Industries multicam radio pouch. You can get this around $35, $45. Very good quality, 1000 DNR. Just open it up, and then you have this extra strap here to kind of get down into it in case the radio is very large. You don't want to yank it out. It allows you to get inside. I have just a Baofeng in here with the push-to-talk attached. As I mentioned before, if you go through my magazine pouches, I have the cable running through it. Doesn't mess with the cable, doesn't mess with the mags, and it keeps me from having to just tape it up around the belt. And then I have 2 spare Bearfang batteries at the bottom of this, so if I have to take it out, I can dig in and pull them out. All right, next up is the Condor dump pouch. So once again, Condor product. It's a dump pouch. I'm okay with it being something I had early on, even if it's made in China. The idea is I have it loose in here, or strap mollied in here, because they're very wide straps around each other, so I can kind of contort the dump pouch. The inside usually has an elastic cord. I cut that because it's easier to take stuff in and out now, but also with the angle of it, how deep the dump pouch is, stuff very rarely ever falls out of it. You can get that for around $10, $15, $20, something like that. Next up, so 1, 2, and then 3 of these are MTP utility / canteen pouches. These come with the belt kit when I purchased them, and I've been using them since. And for this one, it has a clip plus Velcro, so we do 2 different types of retention, and I have canteen for hydration. In addition, I have some food for calories. Put that over there. Next one. Let's see here, liquid IV, some snacks, some sugar. Again, just more stuff to keep my energy going. Roll of duct tape. So I think the inner part is some electric tape, then I have duct tape on top. Just a way to store it in case I need it. I have it. Ziploc bag, that includes a microfiber cloth and a gun cleaning kit. If you check out my OP Thunderdome Airsoft gameplay, I had to use this out on the field, so that's why I carry it. And it kept one of our teammates in the game for a bit longer, so it's good to have. I'm not going to mention what that is. Private information. 100% DEET bug spray, because those mosquitoes got to go, especially if you lived up in Alaska, you're in the know. But also these bottles tend to leak sometimes, especially if you're running around, rolling around and whatnot. So having a Ziploc bag so it doesn't leak over everything else. About 10 feet of paracord, just in case. It's good to have that, just like the tape. Basic fire starting kit, so a couple different lighters. I got some tape wrapped around one of the lighters, so I got some extra tape there, some matches, and then a very small can opener. You never know. Then a over-the-head mosquito net. Again, I built a lot of this when I was up in Alaska, and the mosquitoes out there are absolutely abysmal, so it's kind of nice to have that just in case. Next up, this is the Warrior Assault Systems medium tearaway IFAK. Once again, I put paracord on here. Now, if you want to watch a fuller view of everything that's in here, I already made a separate video on it, but the idea is to pull this tab, rip it off, weave it through this handle, and then rip. It's much easier to do when you have the kit actually on you, and I have this filled to a brim with a above average size IFAK. Again, go watch that video to get more context of what's in here. I should also mention that the IFAK itself costs around $35 to $200. So for me, I think I got around $35, $45. If you want to get it pre-filled and go up to $200, I don't think I did. I think I got my own stuff for it. Moving on to the next one, the last utility pouch. Once again, canteen. This one has a Seaburn cap, in case I ever need that. Probably never will, but I got one. Then inside, canteen cup, so in case I need to cook with it, at least I have something to do a lot of things with actually. I put some duct tape on it because it kind of helps mitigate some of the noise with this when it's inside the pouch, so I did that. All right, next up is the Red River Tactical handgun holster. So this is a custom holster made by Red River Tactical. It has a latch here, so I push it toward myself, and the fin opens, and this is for a SIG M17 that I can put in, and it fits nicely. Now notice, I pull this out. This is designed for a Steiner Tor Mini IR laser to be with it, in case I ever need it for night vision. And I was able to insert this even without this. This is something they've evolved their design with over the years. I know when I originally had a handgun holster from them, You couldn't really do that without the handgun coming out. But now they changed designs to where you can do that. So even if you don't have the attachment it was custom made for, you can still stick a normal handgun in, it's going to be fine. Also duct tape the bottom. I'll go back later and explain why I do that. And then how this works is hit this latch and pull down, or pull up, excuse me. And what you can do with this adapter is put it on something else. And this is the MOLLE adapter, so I'm able to put this on the pouch itself. And then lastly, we're back onto the other side with another JJ's magazine pouch. As you see here, it is blank on this side, so you can see the exposed MOLLE. That's because the clearance between this and the handgun holster is very tight, so I can't really put anything there. And then once again, open up, more magazines. If you haven't already, go ahead and number your mags. Helps in case there's a jam, something, trying to figure out what's going on with it. With that said, that allows me to have 12 magazines on me, plus a 13th in the weapon system, using, at least for intermediate cartridges like 5.56, which is a very large amount of ammo. With that said, the total price for all of this is around $1,200, which is a lot, but you gotta take into account, like, you have all these different pouches being assembled together, you got a custom holster, you got a radio with it, you got the ammunition, so yeah, it's quite pricey for real steel use. Obviously, using it just for airsoft, you can probably cut that price probably in half. Now, total weight for this system, when you have everything filled to the brim, from the water to the actual real steel magazines, looking at around 31 pounds. That's without body armor or any other tactical gear, and that seems like a lot, which to a certain extent it is, though most of that weight is from water and the magazines. But what's important is instead of having that on a plate carrier where a lot of that weight's on your shoulders or maybe in a rucksack, what this is wrapped around not just your shoulder, but your back with these straps, and then around your entire waist. And having weight distributed around your waist really does help a lot with that weight. If you just use this for airsoft purposes, with airsoft mags and whatnot, you're probably dropping this down to 25 pounds maybe, so you save yourself a good amount of weight. Okay, so I show you what's all on here, but I had some weird stuff on it, right? So let me go back through and explain why. So first up, I had some pace beads hiding back here. How often I'm actually going to use that? Well, it depends how long or how often I'm going to be land nabbing. If I am going to do so, so be it. I have it. The knife right here is just somewhere where I can get with my left hand to reach for it. The idea is, why not have it on my right side? Well, I have a handgun on my right side. But again, this is all in the very, very, very unlikely scenario I would ever even need a knife for self-defense, but I got one. Now, I talked about a couple of times how I built most of this loadout while up in Alaska. Up in Alaska, it's very cold, and because of that, you need to have very thick gloves. So these little tiny little straps are kind of hard to get to when you're out there in -20 with multiple layers of gloves. So what I've done for a lot of these pouches is added a knot with a paracord on it. So instead of just grabbing this tab, I can feel the knot and grab it and yank. So that works quite well. Even since I moved away from there, I still keep the stuff on there because it does help, especially if you're in the dark or it's a little confusing or maybe under pressure. It's very easy just to feel that knot and yank. Same thing with the handguns. The handgun magazines are kind of on the side here. It's a little weird with reloading, but you can do it, and I've gotten some decent practice with it. Are you going to be as fast as some guy in an S-Tac magazine? Probably not, but you don't have to be for most situations. And then, of course, I talk about the handgun and how I had duct tape at the bottom. Again, learning from experience up in Alaska, if you do any sort of IMT or buddy drills or anything like that, or especially if you hit the deck crawling, if you hit anything with snow, you're going to get your handgun crammed full of snow. This is kind of why you see a lot of guys, especially in a lot of militaries and even a lot of winter environments, still have the older fashioned covered over handgun holsters to fully protect the handgun. If you have some snow on top, most modern handguns are still going to probably shoot without any issues, probably won't jam on you, emphasis on probably. But if you get snow up the barrel and that snow begins to freeze or is in a condensed enough manner, you could potentially have a catastrophic failure. Same thing goes with a lot of mud, which is what has replaced snow where I'm from now. So it is good to have that, and the idea is, hey, if you get water in here, it gets wet, it's gross, take the duct tape off and then just replace it with more duct tape. And with that, that concludes what I have on the load bearing system. Now, it doesn't necessarily answer the why, and ultimately it depends on my philosophy of use, right? So just as much as I use this for airsoft, as this is a airsoft channel, I also use this for actual firearms, as you saw in this review with the magazines. Now, with that said, I have a plate carrier. Most people use plate carriers or a chest rig or some other system than this. And when they do have a belt system, it's usually a small pistol belt that has some extra stuff on it in conjunction with something else like a chest rig or a plate carrier. And it really comes down to what you are using this for. If I was using this just for airsoft, most of this could disappear and be replaced with a modern plate carrier. But my biggest mentality comes into the understanding of sustainment. I have a larger quantity of ammo. I have redundancy, so I have a handgun as well. I have comms. I have a large IFAK, so I'm not just having the bare minimum medical supplies. I have 2 liters of water on me and a decent amount of additional equipment to get me to where I'm going. Again, most of this, unless I'm going to like a Milson West game, doesn't really apply to airsoft. And that's kind of the point. I want to use this for tactical reasons outside of airsoft. And I need something to sustain me longer in out in the field or some sort of training. So it's good to have a lot of this equipment. So that kind of is my mentality on it. It has a lot of extra stuff on here. You have to keep in mind for a tactical situation outside of airsoft, think about, hey, when is the next time you're going to get ammo? When's the next time you're going to get water? What happens if you get injured or you get shot? How are you going to handle that, and do you have the equipment to actually sustain yourself? I think, if you look at some of the more contemporary issues seen right now with the war in Ukraine, you kind of see a new perspective on war that a lot of the Western countries didn't see during the war on terror. Sustainment is now very different. Used to have smaller units out in, say, mountains somewhere in the Middle East, kind of working these operation posts. You have the world's greatest military helping you out with logistics. Now you have a country like Ukraine fighting another country like Russia in a very conventional environment, getting what supplies they can. Sometimes their units get surrounded, and it's like, hey, how would you handle that situation? That's such a dynamic environment that you may not get the logistics you need to support yourself unless you carry it with you. Now it seems a bit extreme, right? I'm just some normal civilian out in the United States. Am I really going to need this anytime soon? Certainly hope not, but it is something to think about. Now, a second reason I wanted to have this load-bearing system over a plate carrier is the use of it without body armor. A plate carrier usually has the body armor with it. If you have a chest rig and then a body armor separate, you can kind of do the same thing I'm doing here, which is having it separate. So if I want to have body armor but not carry this kit around, I could. Likewise, if I want to use this kit and not carry body armor, I could do that as well. Having that variety, that versatility, is something you may not get in a one-size package of a plate carrier. And then the third big reason why I chose this over a plate carrier is the use of carrying this while also carrying a rucksack. If you have a modern plate carrier, especially if you have something on the back of it like a camelback or some sort of hydration, then it's very difficult to carry anything larger than a small assault pack on you without being in excruciating pain. Can I ruck with this plus slick body armor underneath a blouse plus a rucksack? Yeah, I can. It's going to be pretty slow. It's not going to be fun, but at least I can make it happen. With a lot of modern plate carrier setups, you can't unless you take a lot of trade-offs. So think about all the ammo I have here, 2 liters of water, a large IFAK, admin plus additional items, comms, a handgun with spare magazines, pyro. All of that is on this kit. Can you make a plate carrier setup with this type of capabilities, but also allow you to have it being used with a rucksack? A lot of times the answer is going to be no. Not going to say it's impossible, but generally it's not going to be as common and not as comfortable or as effective as this. Again, a lot of that philosophy goes into real steel use, like how often you're going to carry a rucksack in an airsoft game. Again, if you're not going to Milson West, probably never. So take that into mind. But for me, again, I use it for airsoft and real steel use, and that is why I had this loadout the way I do. Now, lastly is the trade-offs, or some of the cons to that, as condensed as a modern plate carrier. So I have multiple pieces going on. I got a helmet, I got my body armor, then I got this. I also integrated a blouse and whatnot, some other combat uniform. So it's not as quick and easy as someone grabbing a plate carrier and going somewhere. Another issue is vehicle-based operations. So again, for airsoft, not too much of an issue. though it can kind of happen, but especially for a lot of real steel use, especially the British military who uses kit very similar to this, but also a lot of plate carriers. You see a lot of their guys who are in the back of, say, their equivalent to strikers, personnel carriers and whatnot. They will carry load-bearing kits like this, but then the drivers themselves are not. They either have it stored away somewhere else or a plate carrier-based loadout, because you just can't carry something this big when you have that much junk in your trunk while driving the vehicle. Another issue is how I have this set up is the handgun is pretty far back. I'll show some footage overlaying with this on how I draw the handgun. I can still do it pretty fast, still works pretty well, and fairly safe. Though if we're following, say, USPCA rules, I'm probably breaking the 180 or whatever. Yeah, I get that, but this isn't a competition rig, so should be fine. But it is much slower than, say, having it on a pistol belt or a competition belt, where it's much more front and easier to get to. And then last, the only con I have is when I use this buckle in conjunction with body armor. Even if it's underneath the blouse, this buckle and the top of the body armor oftentimes ride very close together. So if I'm trying to unbuckle it, it's kind of tricky at times to take it off with the body armor still on. So do take that into account as well. All right, so I had a lot going on in this video, talking about a lot of different stuff on this kit. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell me what you guys think of it. I mean, whether you agree with that philosophy of use or not. If you do or you don't, tell me what you guys use and why you use it. I mean, this is an Airsoft channel, so most of the reasons or the gear you use this for would be for Airsoft only. And thus your loadout would be very different than mine. So I'll be real keen to see, what's the differences and why it is. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you around next time.